We're gonna be talking about when you don't have faith. We're gonna go through the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verses 1 and 2, then 25 through 33. And I forgot to put verses 1 through 1 and 2 on here, but I got it down here. The Lord said to Moses, Yes. The Lord said to Moses, send men to explore the land of Canaan, the land I am giving to Israel. Send one leader from each of the 12 ancestral tribes. 12 is a pretty significant number. So they're going to have almost like a jury, 12 jurors. So they're going to come back with they're coming back with something. Then it goes on in verse 25 to say, after exploring the land for 40 days, the men returned to Moses, Aaron, and the whole community of Israel at Kadesh. Yeah, I love these names. In the wilderness of Paran. They reported to the whole community what they had seen and showed the fruit that they had taken from the land. This is their report to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore. And it is indeed a bountiful country. A land flowing with milk and honey. Here's the kind of fruit it produces. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there, descendants of Anak. The Amalekites live near the hope I get this right, Negev. And the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. The Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan Valley. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. Let's go at once and take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. But the other men, these are the other 10, who had explored the land with him, disagreed. Bless you.
Bless you.
We can't go up against them. They're stronger than we are. So they spread this bad report about the land among the Israelites. The land traveled through and explored will devour anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw were huge. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers. And that's what they're doing. That's what they thought too. We kind of shows their lack of faith. Those 10 people's lack of faith that God will provide them with that land. And we'll just kind of give you a quick definition. Faith is seeing things from God's point of view, not our own. Now I'm going to start pointing out a few things. Look at what did I do? I'm going to point out what faith is not. Okay? Faith is not desire. We can hope for something. We can hope for something, pray for something. Did I? Okay.
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering. I see him chuckling back there. I was wondering. Our cameraman's sitting there chuckling.
No, it was just the fact that my elbow popped real loud.
Mr. Potato.
Okay, we can hope hope for something, pray for something, or really crave something. But that doesn't make it faith, does it? If you're really wanting something, it's not faith. If it's not in God's will, don't look for it. Pretending something is true that isn't true. Now this is kind of a hard one to describe. You know, we just
Piece of butter?
no, that's gonna go on. Yeah, that'd go along with that. Yeah, something true like a butter. You can have a stick of butter and say it's chocolate. You can insist that it's chocolate, but it's still gonna be butter, isn't it? I don't care how much it is.
Okay.
This ceramic mug. I can say it's gold. I can say this is gold. I can tell myself this thing is gold, solid gold. Doesn't change the fact that it's still ceramic. I could break it. That's not faith. That's not faith in something, is it? Faith isn't a feeling. Now that can be dangerous right there. You know, oftentimes feelings can get in the way of your faith. You know, feelings are pretty dangerous things to have. That's an emotion, but it can be very dangerous. And, you can have a problem where you can feel a certain way. You're going to act that way whether you have faith or not. I mean, if you have a feeling of, let's say a good feeling of anger or despair, you're going to feel that way whether you have faith or not. If you're going to let that feeling override your faith. You know, what faith we got to do is learn how to move ahead despite our feelings. Now that's faith. Despite how you're feeling. When I first took over as pastor of this church, I keep telling this story all the time that we're not going to last but 6 months, maybe a year tops. Well, that's what's almost 6 years ago. And we just had to keep plugging along. Despite, it was kind of a discouraging feeling knowing that it was I think we had a whole, 5 people in here when I first come in here. Now it's kind of, we get people coming in here all the time. It'd been nice to have a full house today, but obviously things sometimes don't work.
Sickness and
Yeah, everybody coming down sick. But Joy and I always plugged through. Everybody in this church plugged through, despite the feeling of, a bummed out feeling that it's, we may have to shut the doors. Well, God, we just kept praying that God will work with this church. God will work with this church. We kept having enough money to keep going. And right now we're starting to see some fruits of our outreach ministry.
just talk.
All right.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Well,
We're not deaf.
this thing here has shut itself off. Crazy Mike. It's not bargaining with God. Has anybody ever seen that show, Let's Make a Deal? Or, what was that other one?
Price
What
is
was that?
Right.
No, the one with all the briefcases?
Deal or no deal?
Yeah. God doesn't do that. God doesn't play that game. It's not no deal or no deal. Now, God's not a gambler. God won't gamble. We can't wheel and deal our way with God. What the heck is going on with my mic?
We can still hear.
It could be the battery.
The battery may be low.
Anyway,
Okay,
He
well,
wants me to pay attention extra well today.
I'll just do it this way. More than one way to skin a cat. Poor kitty.
That's not nice.
But you know, God doesn't want to bargain with us. He doesn't wheel and deal. God's not a wheeler dealer. He sets a course for us. We got to follow it. And we're gonna look at what faith is. Faith is the way of looking at things from God's perspective, and I'm gonna read this one next week when I do what actually faith is. But Hebrews 11, I can't remember which verse it was in there, but it shows that faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It's the evidence of things we cannot see. You know, there's a bunch of ways of looking at something, isn't there? There's numerous. Anybody that's been married can tell you that. You know, I mean, there's so many ways of looking at something, dozens of ways. But you know, the best way to describe it is not how we see it, it's how God sees it. And when we don't have the faith, we're seeing things through the eyes of fear, aren't we? Fear of the unknown. You know, I guess first thing we do if we see something through the eyes of fear, we kind of exaggerate our difficulties, don't we? We have this tendency to exaggerate our difficulties. I mean, this one little problem can turn out to be a humongous problem. But you know, God's got, with faith, a lot of these difficulties can be overcome. Real easy. Look at the 12 spies. They had 2 positives and 10 negative reports. Well, of course, what people used to go by, they go by the majority, don't they? They had a tendency to magnify that problem. They took that problem that God promised them this land. And then two of them were saying, yeah, we can take it. We can go for it. You know, God even assured, we got this. The other 10 was, no way, I ain't gonna go against them. How long? I mean, we've all come up against situations where we thought we're kind of insurmountable, or got against some pretty bad odds, right? But if we sit there not putting our faith in God, we have this tendency to let this problem magnify. It's just kind of like put some bread dough, and if you don't need it, what happens if you don't need that? It just kind of keeps on expanding. Because I know a friend of mine told me about that when he got in trouble with his mom. Him and his dad got in trouble because his mom wanted him to, keep an eye on the dough, on the bread. Well, they got sitting there watching a football game and forgot all about it. So she got back, and here's this humongous pile of bread. Big old dough thing sitting on the counter. This one loaf got humongous. We tend to do that with our problems. We don't tend to let God lead our problems down and break down and punch the dough down and knead it and get it back. We tend to just forget about it. We tend to focus on other things, and then what happens? That, just like that bread dough, our problem's going to expand. I've done that too with, I think one time I forgot about some green beans I had in a container, and pushed the lid down, sealed it real good, and all of a sudden I hear this, after about a couple of days, pop! What in the world was that? And it started smelling real bad in the kitchen. That exaggerates the difficulty right there. But when we start exaggerating our difficulties, We underestimate our abilities, don't we, to do something? We underestimate our abilities all the time. I'm guilty of that too. We tend to think we can't do what we're called to do. Just like these, just like those spies are saying, you know, we can't do that. They're bigger than us. And guess what? The bigger they are, the harder they fall, don't they? You can't be afraid of the big things. We got some big things coming up. You got God with you. Just like, it's like that song, you know. God of angel armies. Is that? Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That's the title of it. I'm just trying to remember it. I could just look at the stick bullet right here. That would have been. Whom shall I fear? You know, God of angel armies. You know what? We got God of angel armies with us all the time, don't we? Use them! Quite simple. We get trying to figure out underestimating our abilities like this. That can lead to a lot of problems. If we just sit there and didn't have faith and kept just worrying about our lack of ability for this church, what do you think would have happened? We'd have probably closed down about like they would have said. Luckily for me, I don't listen very well. My wife can tell you that. You're not listening, are you? What'd you say? Yeah. So pretty much I'm going to have to wear a hockey mask so I don't get hit. But we had I'm talking about underestimating the abilities of magnifying problems. It was a time we were at a softball tournament I was playing in. I was talking with one guy and I made some remark. Joanna just kind of gave me a little tap, just kind of like, you know, that on my shoulder. And I had to work that night and all that, you know, so just that little tap she gave me. Well, by the time I got to work, guess what? They were magnifying the problem. I was being beaten up and abused by my wife at the sports park. All from a little on the shoulder. They thought, that by the time that rumor all got around and magnified, well, guess what? I was being abused, beaten up, all kinds of stuff. So I wasn't underestimating my abilities either. I had to roll with it. I'm pretty good at doing things like that, rolling with a problem. I can take a
King will roll with butcher.
roll with it.
That's how I roll.
And if we exaggerate our difficulties and underestimate our abilities, eventually we're going to get discouraged, aren't we? I guess none of us here have ever been discouraged.
Daily.
Yeah. Has nobody here been discouraged at all?
Daily.
Yeah, we're always going to come up with discouragement. But see, if we could, you don't think these Israelites were discouraged when they heard that report? The 10 spies that were saying it was you weren't going to be able to do about it. You know, after that, you know, when they did that with the things, after they all got discouraged and didn't want to take the land, God, of course, told them they're going to have to walk around for 40 years out in that desert. You know, it's like living in Barstow for 40 years, I guess. But you know, when they exaggerated the difficulties, they underestimated the abilities, they started getting discouraged. Then they started griping about our lives, right? The whole pity party, you know.
Oh no, miserable.
You know, we have a pity party. We just start griping about, my life is just so horrible. It's so horrible, I just can't. I get a kick out of people that, I just drink all the time. Well, quit drinking, well, it might not be so bad. But see, some of the things they gotta, we start griping, gripe, whine, yeah. You know, we get, after a while, Papa starts hearing a womp, like that teacher on the Peanuts cartoon, the womp. That's about what it starts sounding like to everybody. I know there's people, a lot of chronic complainers too, right? I mean, we know quite a few chronic complainers. You know, these people you can't seem to please. That shows kind of a lack of faith when you start chronically complaining about something. I'm not going to sit there and complain about this church here. It's just like those 12, just like the Israelites, weren't they? I think they were kind of griping, weren't they? When they found out they had to walk around for 40 years until all of them died. Yeah, there's gripe. Yeah, well, you brought it on yourself. All this is leading into one another, isn't it? You see where this is all leading to? But of course, the thing we really don't want to have happen, but we do if you live through eyes of fear, when you don't have the faith, you give up, you start blaming God. And I said last week about blame, it means be lame. Because a lot of times they can't blame God, they just got to blame yourself. Because God provides us a way all the time for something.
Blame others. Jeez.
We can blame ourselves, we can blame God, blame others, but a lot of times, they always say when you finger blame, guess what? You see, you got 3 more fingers pointing at you.
Amen.
Except for I got a friend of mine that only had one
Oh my
pointing back because
goodness.
he had 2 of them missing.
Only you, Pastor.
But, my cousin would be that way too because he was steer roping and got his finger pinched off. So, but that's something for another sermon. But yeah, we give up. Lots of people can give up and blame God. Why would God do this? Why does God allow this to happen? Well, God didn't allow it to happen. You just didn't want to follow His directions. And men are really bad at doing that. I know that men don't follow directions. Am I right? Directions? What are those? Oh, that's the thing for the last resort, isn't it? Yeah, here's our instruction booklet for our wireless mic. Unopened. God doesn't, we got an owner's manual too, don't we? A lot of you brought it with you brought it to church. Did you bring your owner's manual? Your Bible? I got mine printed up on here, but owner's manual for our lives. We can't blame God for something we did. I mean, our kids are great at that, okay? Any parent can tell you that. Kids are great at doing that, blaming others. So, and I was the youngest, so it was really hard, it was really easy, They did, my brother did, and he did it. Then I'd have to face the wrath of that after.
I think I blamed the cats once.
Yeah,
right?
you blamed the cats once. Robert blamed the cats for something getting messed up around the house. I don't think the cats did this, no. The cats did not destroy the shelf, I'm sorry. Was it when you shot your window out with a BB gun? Is that when you worked it out?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Dogs did it.
Yeah, I got a weird kid. He shot his window out with a BB gun one time, then he asked if he could get a shotgun next time.
Oh,
Oh, no, you're not gonna blow a hole through the wall, I'm sorry, kid. But see,
you.
but he wanted to blame other people, other animals. We all do have a tendency to do that, right? Blaming other people's things, blaming God. Bottom line is we take responsibility for ourselves. The blame's eventually gonna come right back to us for not following direction, for not having the faith in God to see us through it. Because I mean, face it, it's hard to really have faith in something you can't see, right? I mean, I can sit in that chair and have faith that chair will hold me up. Hopefully it'll hold me up. I don't know how good these chairs are, but we have, but I mean, I'm not gonna just sit on the air like this and just, okay, I have faith, this air is, this chair that I got on faith, I'm gonna sit down and pray that I stay seated. I'll be staying seated, all right. I'll stay seated on the floor, but a lot of us, with the spiritual thing with faith, it's actually more real than that chair. And I'm going to cover that next week. Because we have, next week I'm going to talk about living in faith and not living in fear. What living in faith does. So, next week I'll be doing that. So hopefully, I want you guys back here next week for the conclusion of this. Because I borrowed this sermon from Rick Warren, one of his, and I wasn't going to do a whole 1 hour sermon here, I'm sorry. I don't think I want to do it, my voice wouldn't take it.
Praise God.
Yeah.
He's cat.
So, we're going to have an invitation, you have any prayer needs or whatever, just come forward.